Om Gurubhyo Namaha. Om Shri Matre Namaha. This is talk number 33 that we started at Navaratri time with Devi Mahatmyam. We are coming to an end with this session, and today I want to take some time and bring some clarification to some of the meanings of the Vedic words, and also addressing some of the misconceptions. Whatever is being said has a universal knowledge, and everyone from every other religion can gain from this. Now let us look at the word sadhana. Sadhana is in general referred to as spiritual practice. So this word actually does not define completely sadhana, because practice can be related to anything which is customary, habitual, or doing something repeatedly like sports, or something which is self-gratifying actions. So here the meaning is to reach a goal, and the sadhaka, the one who is practicing this sadhana, reaches the goal of spiritual perfection, which we term as moksha or liberation. So for an ardent seeker, this sadhana becomes a way of life in accordance with dharma, and the guiding light for one's sadhana is one's guru. This is because the guru has realized the ultimate truth and crossed the different stages of the samsara, attained higher states of consciousness, and finally attained the liberation. And he is the one who can guide the aspirant in this sadhana. So the guiding principles are again taken from the Shastras or the spiritual books. And there are several people now who actually package them as practices, and these involve many of their independent thoughts and ideologies, and the ones that create these programs are not really self-realized. So it is important to understand that these are not a part of the sadhana given by a guru or the enlightened being, and they can simply be called as practices, spiritual practices. So here for our purpose, the object of the sadhana is to gain the higher states of consciousness, to gain the purity in the mind and the behavior, to bring harmony to our thoughts, words, and actions, to gain the most with nature's support, and to have this continuous connection with Bhagavan. And this whole of sadhana should be a blissful path. This whole of the walking to the light of God should be very happy and conducive, just gaining more and more that is good and fulfilling and happy. This is the goal of the sadhana. So for us, mainly this part of the sadhana is, first most important is the transcendence, to practice the transcendental meditation morning and evening. And also, if one has taken the TMCDs, then also include that in the practice. Then there is the yoga and the pranayama. And in this tradition, there is also, for those who can do it, there is the puja, the worshipping of God, listening or singing to kirtanas, bhajans and stotras, expressing adoration and love to God with classical music, both instrumental and vocal, and performance of dance or nritya. In addition, we also discussed yesterday of doing seva. Seva is not just service, seva is more than service. Seva here are selfless activities done by an individual for the pleasure of Bhagavan without any trace of egoism and rendered through one's body, mind and wealth. So this seva is motivated purely out of love and reverence for Bhagavan. So here there is seva to Bhagavan directly and also indirectly to whole of his creation. So this way the seva extends to one's guru, the parents, elderly, the guests, and for all those needy people and other beings in the creation. And this seva is done with some cognition that divinity is there in every being, and it demands a purity of mind. So in this seva bhava, one should be free from anger, greed, lust, pride and other negative emotions. In essence here, seva is not only to raise one's consciousness, but it is an end in itself. So especially these days, there are many people who say we are doing service and they have many expectations on so many levels. And there are some organizations in the name of this service, so-called service to humanity, they keep doing so many violations of the nature. So now again, going back to sadhana, there are several things also included in the sadhana, like reading and listening to the Vedic literature. Now this is the month of Kartik Mas, the month of Kartika, and many people listen and or read Shiva Purana. Like this, around the year there are some things or other happening in reading different parts of the Vedic literature or participating in the Saptahams, which they call 7-day week celebrations of these Puranas. Maharishiji has really recommended these Saptahams, and he felt people who had wealth should organize these and invite other people and everybody listen to these great Puranas. And also there are Gita Yagyas conducted where for certain number of days somebody is speaking on Gita and everyone is listening to it. Then there is the Vrata. Vrata is a disciplined way of living during the special periods in the Vedic calendar. Like for example, this month, the whole month there is the Vrata for during the Kartik Mas. The purpose of this Vrata is mainly to be able to do this sadhana uninterrupted and to raise one's consciousness and keep moving towards liberation. So they live in a yagya spirit and they give up things in terms of food, behavior and so many aspects of existence which are of lower consciousness and embrace the values of the higher consciousness. Then besides the puja and the spiritual practices, they're also performing some kind of a charity or doing some seva on an everyday basis during this whole month. There are some elaborate recommendations made from Shiva Purana and all. But in general, I follow a very simple vratam. I don't eat rice and wheat. I only eat millets, simple vegetables and fruit, and continue with the rest of my sadhana, the dhyana samadhis, and then the puja for Shiva, and doing any good work or doing anything good for anybody during this period. Here, the most important thing to understand about sadhana is it is a way of life. It is a way of life for a seeker. It becomes his existence, whatever he's doing and whatever he's involved. When I was in Rishikesh, I would see that taking a bath in Ma Ganga was a part of the sadhana. Walking barefoot to Shiva temples was a part of their sadhana. Walking around a mountain, a Shiva mountain, was a part of their sadhana. Feeding cows, dogs and other animals was a part of their sadhana. Feeding other devotees and elderly was a part of their sadhana. Organizing these kathas or the Purana katha was a part of their sadhana. Cleaning the temples and helping in the temples was a part of the sadhana. Giving charity to poor people and sick people was a part of their sadhana. And they all have gurus guiding them. I think Rishikesh is the only place I knew where every Thursday, which we call Guruvar, is a holiday. On this day, the Guru's day, which is the Thursday, they would close all the businesses and shops and everybody would go visiting their gurus and ashrams. So this deep connection between the Guru and Bhagavan and all of the nature which is seen as the creation of Devi. For example, worshipping the rivers, the trees, the mountains, the different animals and birds. Everything is so connected, and then one realizes that the whole goal is moving from this multiplicity to this unity, moving from this duality to this unity and oneness of the God. So the whole goal of sadhana is to just keep moving towards that unity, towards that silence, from dynamism to silence, from the boundaries to unboundedness, and from ignorance to the great knowledge and the light of God, from unhappiness to eternal bliss, and from the ever-changing phenomena to the never-changing phenomena, and ultimately gaining the Jivan Mukta, the ultimate freedom within this body. Now, there are many people who do not understand this transcendence and this inward journey. They do not understand this direct connection and this direct communion with God. They are not familiar with this easy path and the blissful path. Now, all over the world, people want to love God and people want to be religious. and people want to live in a righteous way. But what I'm beginning to realize is that there is no proper guidance as to how to do it. Many people will say, give guidance and give talks and lectures on a verbal level, give many suggestions, teach the moral values, but it doesn't transform the intelligence of man. It doesn't change the consciousness of the man. And that is why man remains suffering and wanting to love God. Recently, I just had a very brief conversation with a good friend who is also a physician and of same age as me. And she told me that for several years, for many years now, she continuously keeps listening to all these talks given by eminent scholars in Telugu language. They have great scholarly knowledge and have great speaking skills and are very inspiring just listening to them. So I asked her a simple question. Are you enjoying these talks? Are you gaining a lot from these talks? Are you feeling fulfilled with these talks? Then she honestly said, when I'm listening to them, I feel very good. It's just like having a pain balm. It feels good and I feel soothing and some temporary relief of my concerns. But there is no lasting value. Just almost immediately after, it seems like everything is the same again. Nothing has improved much. So then I realized that this is the balm people want because they feel good for a little while, and even if it doesn't bring them the lasting transformation or nor helping them to reach the goal of self-realization, they want the balm because they feel inspired by the scholarly talks and this knowledge in great diversity and a lot of information overload. Now we have to ask ourselves a very important question here. What is the purpose of these talks? And what is the purpose of this religion or any religion for that matter? Maharishiji has always said that the purpose of any discussions on religion or religious matters should be to present God to man and to show a direct way of God realization. Because God is omnipresent. So the whole purpose of these religious preachers and the scholars of any religion, not only just Hindu religion, but is to show the direct way of God and the God realization. So these preachers continuously keep on telling how to live a righteous life, how to help others, how to love others. And this is the way you realize God. And this is the way you gain liberation. Now what is missing here is nobody is speaking about how to raise the consciousness. What is, how to rise to God consciousness. And then as a result, man would be living righteous life, good life, all rightful living, good and pure love, and helping others, and everything else that is good. So here what is actually happening is, one is putting the cart before the horse. The tables are turned. So when you put the cart before the horse, then the horse is trying to push it, and he can't push it very fast. So here the religious preachers are expected to give the techniques for higher states of consciousness. so that one starts behaving rightly. The moral conduct, proper behavior, and all these are necessary. But if the consciousness is not raised, then in the state of lower consciousness, if a man is asked to act right, do this, love this way, and then he doesn't know how to do it. He doesn't know what is right. He doesn't know what is righteousness and dharma. So if one keeps on listening to this, then there becomes a conflict in the mind, and then one starts experiencing tension. So when you put the cart before the horse, then the horse cannot push it. It cannot push it fast, and the cart remains where it is, and the horse becomes helpless. And so people give up. People give up on religion. People give up on this quest for this self-realization, and people keep seeking only on the outside. So they lose faith. Now, there are some religions which are also saying that it is important and it is inevitable to suffer on this path of gaining God. So if you go on the path of God, you don't expect darkness to increase. You should not expect suffering to increase, because when you go towards the light, only increase of intensity of light is expected. Prayer is a path of every religion, but now every religion seems to be floating on the surface only. Just praying loudly doesn't get into the transcendental value where divinity is lively. So in the Vedic literature, it always says that you take a dive into yourself, you just be a little bit more innocent, more simplicity, and you transcend and you go deep within. And this is where Bhagavan is found. This is where you realize yourself. Now again, all religions talk of love, but they hardly these days are seen in experiencing love or giving experience of love. Love is an element so delicately flexible, and infinite flexibility belongs to love. Now only when one has the taste of this pure consciousness, then there is this infinite flexibility. So when one is experiencing love in this infinite flexibility from the level of the being, then it nourishes all aspects of life and provides evolution to oneself and the others. Now there is a mood that religious teachings are not really very useful, because the religious people are saying something and acting something completely opposite to it. And one is also seeing that the religions are using their faith to bring, instead of bringing unity and peace to the world, they are bringing division and destruction. And there are some religions and religious preachers, maybe even in this tradition, who say that path of God is full of poverty and wealth is an obstacle. This is totally untrue. By walking in the direction of God, everything should get better, there should be more abundance, and there should be more happiness and more things available for the devotee. If one rises to God consciousness and naturally loses interest in the material values, that is very different from choosing poverty. and to suffer in order to gain God. This is never described in any way in any of the Vedic texts. And there are also some religions who say that one has to endure suffering in order to know God. And suffering should not be taught in the name of religion, and suffering is a wrong concept of religion. And there are some religions who are saying killing is not a sin. One is killing and then still one is talking about religion. Maharishiji said, "You are killing the man who is made in the image of God. You are killing and you are talking of religion." What I want to say today is that I have seen that many people who learnt TM, among the many religions, different religions, they all told me that their religious experience has increased and become better. They understand their religion better. In this context, I had a few Christian ministers who learned TM when I recommended to them. Now, every religious book has the essence of the path of God realization. But because the preachers, they themselves don't practice meditation and they do not have this inner experience, they are too superficial. Now, the prayer is a path to realization, but prayer is on different levels. On a verbal level, prayer has its effectiveness, but on the mental level, the prayer is more effective. And then even Adi Shankara came up with Manasa Puja, that means doing the whole puja in the mind. And the prayer from the transcendental area has the maximum effectiveness, because on this level, thought has a frictionless flow and it travels instantly throughout nature. So prayer from the transcendental level is a direct entrance or a directly open door. And Maharshi said, prayer can never be glorified enough. It is a supreme value of human consciousness. Now, Maharshiji has brought up this issue once about the scriptures. All of the scriptures in all the religions now are mutilated. The reason being the interpreters, the commentators, and the speakers, they're all giving the knowledge from their level of consciousness. Maharshiji brought a great revival of a lot of the Vedic literature, but still a lot of the core texts and the Vedas, we do not find the pure interpretations. And so is it with Bible, Quran, Buddhist teachings, and teachings of other religions. And then the interpretations of the scriptures also vary from scholar to scholar. And not only does it depend, it is dependent on the intellectual understanding, but also on the level of consciousness, because all knowledge is structured in consciousness. Now, all the classifications of actions, good and bad, in the scriptures of every religion are universal values of life. Universally, they are good for every man, and they are meant to be good for at all times. And the individual good is included in the universal good. So here, the scriptures and then the preachers keep on saying, use your intellect to discriminate and then choose what is right and what is wrong and what is good and what is bad. But in reality, the scriptural values cannot be lived in practical life just on the basis of selection and rejection by intellect. And why is this so? Because human intellect is very limited. In this limited intellect, no one can say by what word, at what time, in what place a man is producing life-supporting influences. Or this limited intellect can say that by the same word, at some other circumstances, in some other place, in some other time, what influence he will be producing. Furthermore, as we have seen, the influence of action is so far-reaching in nature, and it is so complex and varied for its influence in the creation, that human intellect on the level of its understanding cannot correctly evaluate the doing. And it cannot correctly evaluate whether it is life-supporting or not, whether it is according to the scriptures or not. One cannot understand the nature of the results of the action performed completely. And we see that one action done now has thousands and millions of implications for the doer and for others, for the society, for the garden and for the leaves and the mountains and for the whole creation. So in this limited intellectual understanding, then one falsely comes to conclusions and feels satisfied that I know the scriptures, I'm working according to the scriptures, I know my religion, I understand all of this. Now, in conclusion, let us try to understand what is that life of all good. Here it is important to understand that when the absolute becomes the nature of the mind, then that mind is the basis of all creation. Again, when the absolute becomes the nature of the mind, then that mind is the basis of all creation. So this mind is functioning on that level from where all the laws of nature are functioning. And so all the laws of nature engaged in creation and evolution have only one purpose. And what is this one purpose? This one purpose on only evolution and evolution and more evolution. And so finally, I would like to say that all this sadhana is to live this life which is aligned to the scriptures, which is aligned to dharma. And when a person can feel that he is all good, untouched by evil, and by all his thoughts, speech and action produce only life-supporting influence, then we can say this life and this existence is aligned to scriptures and aligned to dharma. Finally, I want to end by saying life is truly bliss. It is not suffering. And when you take a walk towards the light of God, then that path will not bring suffering. So we are fortunate. We have this blissful path for self-realization, this blissful path for liberation, and this art of transcendence as the foundation. So I will end here. Jai Gurudev, Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu.